Admissions in higher ed is stuck. Outdated tools and rigid processes slow institutions down, making it harder to truly connect with today's students. But Brittany at the College of Albemarle shows that there's a better way.
At College of the Albemarle, we're always looking for new ways to better serve our students. Let's face it, though, life doesn't always fit into a 9-to-5 schedule. That's why we've been so excited about the AI tools we get to use through our CRM, Element451. This makes connecting to COA easier than ever. We're working on Bolt AI Assistance, Bolt Discovery, and these are tools designed to give students access to COA resources and information anytime, day or night. Got a question about admissions? Need help exploring programs? Looking for resources? These tools are like having COA staff at your fingertips, ready to help whenever it's convenient for you.
Your prospective students get the information they need when they need it, and your team saves time. Visit element451.com to see how AI can help you simplify your admissions process to stay focused on what really matters, your students. Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome to AI for You. Today's use case is about helping you create the most valuable website content for your audience and your business. To get good output on a prompt like this, it's critical to provide the AI tool you're using with as much data as possible. We've established a process to get the data that we need for this prompt by using Google Search Console and Looker Data Studio. Now, I love Google Search Console because it can provide you with a lot of information on your website's performance. It can show you what terms people are searching for to find your site, what pages they're coming to, and even where you rank for those terms. I hate Google Search Console because it doesn't provide you the data that you need in a format that captures everything in one view. It doesn't connect all the different pieces, and it doesn't give you all the data when you try to export it. So we always take our Google Search Console data and put it into a Looker Data Studio dashboard. And then you can just right-click on that dashboard and export all the information in one CSV file. There's a link to the dashboard template that we use in the show notes. So you can make a copy of that, point it to your Google Search Console account, and capture all this data for your own site. You can then upload that CSV file to ChatGPT or your LLM of choice and use the prompt in today's show notes to get some ideas on what existing content you should optimize and what new content you should create to provide the most value for your audience and your business. On today's show, we're talking with Ardis Kadiu, the founder and CEO of Element451. Ardis shares insights on building AI-first platforms for student engagement. Learn how multiple AI personalities can create more natural interactions, why transformational thinking is crucial for AI adoption, and what the future holds for AI in higher education. Ardis is a true innovator and leader in this space, and I'm excited to speak with him today. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us and share it with your friends or in your networks. Let's jump right into our conversation. All right, Ardis. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Brian. It's so good to see you, and it's always fun to kind of chat with you about AI.
For any of the listeners who don't know much about you and Element 451, why don't you just take a little bit of time and talk about what Element 451 does and the impact that you've seen AI and your tools have on campuses?
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Element451, and Element451 is a full AI first platform for student engagement. It essentially handles everything from top of the funnel marketing engagement and prospect engagement to current student engagement. We tend to, our AI capabilities and tools focus specifically on not just on the productivity side of the house, where you can now do better content, but also focuses specifically on the student engagement, where it focuses on student support with AI assistants. That you can handle anything from Q&A to things like application status checks to kind of career exploration to advising. So it handles all of those different kind of components, and we've tried to build a whole ecosystem of these AI assistants, or you can call them AI agentic type of systems now to handle that student support from, like I said, from all different aspects of what they need.
And we've had some of your clients on the show before and, talked with them about, some of the different impact that they've seen from using the tools. Dr. Janet Spriggs on from
Yeah, Forsyth Technical.
Forsyth.
Yeah,
Thank you, Forsyth Technical
yeah.
Community College. And just fantastic impact that they've seen from using the tools on student growth, on enrollment growth overall. And I love the way, when I came to one of your presentations, that you showed that the different chatbots will hand students off to kind of different personalities within the tool. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, no. So what we've built is, traditionally when you have kind of this Gen AI chatbots or maybe first generation chatbots, it's really one dimensional. So you have one chatbot and they have all the knowledge. But when we move into kind of real world use cases of AI, as if we are kind of mirroring individual people on campus, you have different specialties on those. You have folks who are handling students from an advising perspective at the admissions level. You have peer advisors, you have financial aid advisor, and all of them have different personalities and have access to different pieces of data and different pieces of information. So what we've built is actually a platform that all of these agents and all of these AI assistants can be sitting on top, and they actually know about each other. So when a student comes in and they enter in and have a conversation, let's say Brian, the admissions advisor, and Brian is like, well, I don't have that information, or maybe you're very polite and you're very goal oriented and you're trying to nudge him along around that application. Then that student is asking a financial question, but now that can be a little bit more strict, right? The language can be a little bit more strict, and you have to have some guardrails in terms of what you're promising that student, and what the goal is and what the knowledge is that you have. So you pass it along to, let's say, Jamie, the financial aid assistant. Jamie now is able to provide that information because she has access to that data. We have built that platform. They hand things off from one to the other, and that's what they're doing at Forsyth as well. And we've seen really, really great results, because this notion that you're talking to a person now gets translated into this AI agents. And in some cases, these agents have different capabilities behind the scenes, but we've decided to kind of bring that to the forefront, so schools can mirror how they do their work with real teams, now have digital teams with this AI system, so they can have the same processes, or they can have the same data sets together. And we find that that's actually working a lot better than just having one chatbot, which is know-it-all and not having the guardrails, so to speak.
Right. And then at some point, depending on the conversation and what the students are asking, you can actually hand them off to a real person if the
Correct.
questions fall
Exactly.
out. Right. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
fantastic.
That's so it's like you're handing them off to a person, to an AI, another agent, or you're handing them off to a real person. And the rules for handing that off to a real person, it's based on intent as well, right? So it's the same exact thing. So if your intent is not part of the, like, you can set up your own intents to hand it off to, let's say, if you have an international office, or if you have, if there's a question that comes in around some open house event and you have an intent around this open house event that's happening this Sunday, that can be another one. So there can be a lot of different kind of setups based on that intent.
I mean, we've heard stories of chatbots, giving false information or bad information. So how do
Yeah.
you like weigh that or convince educational institutions that that there's I mean even human counselors make mistakes as well, right? So we know
Yeah.
that AI can make mistakes. What do you do to combat that, to alleviate that fear within using these different chatbots?
So we call those hallucinations, right? It's like everybody's
Right.
hallucinating now. We as humans hallucinate all the time. We always make up stuff we're not very good at. We're just able to fake it a little bit better. The way So that's very interesting, because that is the number one question that in 2024 we've had to get schools over that hump. And the way we've done it is through education and trying to show them exactly, go down to and show them how the sausage is made, so to speak, right? And that's been very successful for me specifically, when I show them and I say, okay, here is how a chatbot is answering the question. Here is the context. Here is the here's how we pull in the information from your knowledge base versus us answering a question directly from when there's no knowledge or no context in there. And here is how we are loading the different sources of context, from the school's information, from the website, to the context of the user. And then we put all that together, and then we put it in that larger context window that we get right now. And we say, answer this question based on this information, based on the guardrails. So we explain how a modern RAG system works. For those of you who don't know, RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is this technique that essentially, before it answers questions, or before you provide questions, it does a query to knowledge sources that are proven, that are authoritative, right? Then that can be your website, your knowledge base. It can be your CRM. It can be any source of data. And then you pull the relevant information in, and then you generate the content based on that context. So that's kind of the modern RAG techniques in order to eliminate hallucinations.
Yeah, and so once you explain that to them, they have a little more confidence in the fact that
Exactly.
it's not just
Yeah.
going to make up whatever the student wants to hear.
There's a lot of analogies that we can use, like around short-term memory versus long-term memory, and how that works, with the training being the long-term memory. But then, you're providing this short-term memory, which is that information, and then that short-term memory gets erased every time you ask it. You have to provide it all the time, and that's why it doesn't use your data to train, because your data goes to the cloud, but they don't care about it because it's short-term memory, goes away, it erases. So those are the kinds of things that we've tried to do in order to get them comfortable with it.
And you've worked with a lot of different institutions, big institutions, small institutions. Higher ed, as you I'm sure are well aware, is not always quick to change and quick to adopt, especially new technologies. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see when you're working with these institutions when it comes to integrating AI or adopting AI into their processes?
It's been really interesting because it's changed, Brian, over the last year. And right now, I would say the biggest challenges is they still don't look at it as a transformational technology that can change everything that they do. So they look at it again as a tool, but as a tool to kind of play around with, right? So there is no initiatives that are larger. Okay, let's just take our application management system and let's envision it in an AI first world. What does that look like? I have seen zero of those initiatives, to be honest. And at the core of it, this is a transformational technology that you have to look at it from that perspective, and not just as a, oh, let's just throw in ChatGPT to make me a speech at the leadership level or to change the tone of this conversation. Like, we're way past those kinds of use cases, right? That was like so 2013. Now we're in the adoption phase, and that's the biggest challenge that I see, is that the leadership still doesn't understand the transformative power of this technology. They're asking their teams, go figure this thing out, this AI out. Like, that's what we hear. It's like, from leaders, it's like, go figure this out. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like, your teams don't really have the tools on how to do change management. Like, that comes from leadership, right? Like, they don't have the permission to think bigger. That comes from leadership. So how they're supposed to figure it out when they don't have the power to understand, like, the impact at the organizational level, how these things can apply to that? We're pulling folks through, but it's going to take some time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I say all the time, is that AI adoption is not a technology project. It is a
Yeah,
change management project, and it requires an entire like mindset shift. You really have to start thinking about, how can you make your workflows more efficient and effective at a much broader, a much higher level than just writing your emails or, sorting through your inbox or things like that.
exactly.
So, for institutions that are facing these challenges, how do you recommend they get started? What do you, when you're brought into one of these institutions and they're like, bring us AI and make this,
Yeah.
figure out how to integrate and implement into our processes. What kind of advice do you start with?
There's two components of it, right? One of them is looking at your consumer experience, or your student journey or student experience, and how can you implement AI to remove friction from that experience and to make that experience better. And then look at it from the productivity angle of your teams. So sometimes they're not, exclusive of each other, but I tell folks that the most ROI, the most benefit that you're going to get from AI today is by using it to improve the student experience and your consumer experience first. So look at things in your consumer experience. How can you deliver them better service, and how can you move them along that journey faster, and try to implement AI where it makes sense to remove a particular barrier from that experience. You can take the program exploration, for example. Right now, a lot of schools on their website, they have kind of this program explorers, and sometimes they're outdated, and they don't have ROI information, and they don't have all the courses, they might have outdated programs in there. So that's a huge barrier for that student to discover what you offer. So can you implement a Gen AI solution, search, or a Gen AI component that can kind of replace the product discovery on your website, right? In order to facilitate that. Now, not a lot of schools, maybe a lot of schools don't have that problem, but for those that do, that's a really good way to start. You can go faster than that, and you can go into the application process, and you can do the same thing there. It's like, what are the questions and what are the answers that you're providing? You can go even further, and you can say, okay, for current students, how the hell are they navigating through that course catalog? They don't even know what some of these courses do or what the names are, right? You probably are seeing this in your own institution. The course names are the worst ever.
Sure.
I have no idea what the hell they mean. And it's like, can we when I built websites, it used to be, we have this course name that's available in the SIS, and then we have a course name that's available on the website, so we can, or even at the program level, so we can translate it for humans, for mere humans. We called it a marketing name versus a internal name. So it's like AI is really great at making those connections. So it's like, can you provide current students with an ability to search or to discover based on outcomes? So that's another opportunity there. We can kind of talk about examples all the time, but it's all about like, how do you help that experience get faster? How can you help that student get their stuff faster, remove barriers, provide, really good service for them? And you can look at the commercial world as well, because they're not very far away, right? There's just maybe a year ahead or maybe 6 months ahead. So a lot of these tools that are around Gen AI are in customer support or customer success world, and that's what they're doing there, providing answers, helping customers go through their experience a lot faster. Recommendation engines, like those are huge.
Think you know ChatGPT? Think again. Unlock advanced features like projects and Canvas at the AI Engage Summit's ChatGPT Secrets session on February 26th. You'll be able to implement what you learn immediately. This free virtual event is a must attend. Register now at enrollify.org/engage. Yeah, and it's funny that we're asking these students who are entering this, educational environment for the first time, or, trying to figure out what career they want to get into. And we're just creating all these barriers with the course
Right.
names and with the way that our course listings are set up. And,
Right.
they don't know what they want to be, and everyone's asking them what's your major? And they're like, I don't know. I'm undecided because I can't even figure out how to read all the courses. I don't know what they mean, or, yeah,
Exactly. There is this internal struggle also. It's like, okay, the professor or the faculty member for this, it's like, how are my courses listed? Like, do the certificates come first versus the programs versus, I'm like, does it matter? Like at the end of the day, I'm like,
right. Well, and I
but
mean,
yeah,
AI could deliver those in whatever way that you want them
correct.
delivered that would make the most sense for you. So that kind of, personalized, uh, product catalog or course catalog, I think, is a
Exactly.
brilliant thing. I know ASU is, they have some AI that they're working on to do exactly that, where students just enter in their interests and hobbies and things that they like, and it comes back and it says, well, here are some courses and here's some majors and some, potential jobs down the road that you might be interested in. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of personalized content delivery and cataloging that we have.
We call it discovery, right? So it's like this product discovery, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like, you're discovering these new things. We're at Element. We're working. We already have some of those solutions, but we're seeing it. But we're building more and more of it, especially around like current students, where it's like, well, can we just provide a kind of this personalized feed to that student every single day? Because now, if you remember, it's like you had the RSS feeds and the news feeds, and then you had the like the courses and everything else. And it's like, well, I can actually generate this in real time, a personalized feed to that student based on, hey, your interest or your location where you are. I can just take a whole bunch of those news items and the courses and kind of start generating cards similar to like a Perplexity, right? So that's what would be really, really cool on that discovery part of it.
Absolutely. I always wonder when I'm talking to other schools or even at our institution, it seems like on the academic side of things, they've been moving forward with this sooner. And maybe that's just because, the so much conversation about students using this technology to cheat, so that they realized that they had to figure out some way to either, lock it down, which they very quickly discovered that was not the right solution, or to figure out how to integrate it into the classrooms. But when you look at the administrative side, the marketing side, the enrollment side, it seems like the adoption there is much slower, or doesn't have the, uh, you know, I don't know, kind of purpose-driven integration that you see on
Hmm.
the academic side. Do you think why do you think that happens that way?
Well, I mean, it's who carries a lot of the power in in our institutions is the faculty members
It's true.
are really vocal about this stuff. If you remember, we started from we got to ban all these things because of the cheating. The teaching and learning is probably one of the biggest opportunities that we have. But the fastest way to implement these Gen AI components are not around the teaching and learning; they're around the experience, right? So I mean, I'm a little bit biased because I look at the institution as a business at the end of the day, but there is this whole notion of classroom and teaching and learning that AI is going to really transform how that happens. If you know, like personalized tutors can deliver up to two standard deviations of better results than when you interact one-on-one with these tutors rather than the standard teaching of a larger classroom. So we know that personalized learning really works and works really, really well. It's just a matter of how do we now deploy it when you have infrastructure in the classroom that is meant to, like, you have the canvases and the other LMSs that are a little bit more traditional. So it's going to take a couple of years before people just let go of this notion of this is my content, and faculty members become a little bit more open to the idea that it's okay for somebody else or for an AI to basically mimic you or to kind of use your material as source material to kind of support that student. Like, that's still you and that's still your work, but in some cases there is a fear that, well, what am I going to do, right? What's going to be my role in this whole thing? And that's why we see that pull and push. Some institutions are a little bit more forward thinking in that they see where the puck is going, so to speak, and they're kind of nudging their faculty. But there's going to be, a huge wave of that teaching and learning that's going to be driven by, by the need for students to kind of have the same access to their teachers. Like the product has to change, right? It hasn't
Right.
changed in decades. The education, it's like you get your course, like you get a bunch of material and then you go learn. Maybe you get some lectures. Now those lectures are online, so you can do async. Maybe that was the biggest innovation, the async stuff.
Right.
But now it's like it's got to change for sure. Did you read Brave New World by
I've not,
Sal Khan? Brave
I've
New
not.
Words, he kind of sets out the notion of this personalized learning. Khan Academy and then Khanmigo is their AI tutor, and the environment. And what they say, or what he says, is that this idea, you can still see how somebody learns when they're interacting with an AI, because in the context of that AI assistant, like, it's driving the student through and it's providing kind of this feedback, and then you can see the work that the student has, which can be a much better when you see the interaction back and forth, rather than just seeing the result, when you provide a paper. Or so the testing or is so much better when you see the whole progression of the learning, and the AI can drive the student through and say, if you submit a whole paper, it's like the AI knows. It's like, okay, you just submitted this. It's like, no, 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 I need you to write it here. Otherwise, this is a red flag. Or so, I mean, he talks about that all the time, or in that book, on like what that model can look like. Of course, it's a little rosy and more geared toward the K-12 kind of world, but we're going to see it in higher ed changing
Yeah,
drastically.
absolutely. And you mentioned the fear of job loss or being replaced. How do
Exactly.
you deal with that when you go into like enrollment team and they're like, "Oh my gosh, AI is going to take all our jobs away."
It's funny because we were having like the opposite, conversation 3 years ago with COVID, right? It's like, I have 5 positions I can't fill. I have 3 positions I can't fill. I have this many positions I can't fill. So it's like, once of a sudden now AI is like, well, we're going to replace my job. It's like, no, it does. That's not what's happening here. It's we're giving AI to you so you can service more students and make their students' lives better. And by the way, we're not replacing you. We're just making you more efficient, and we're giving you more time to provide higher bandwidth, engagement with those students. So
Right.
that's the mindset that needs to change. And by the way, you need to change. Like, if you were doing work that just encompassed spreadsheets or changing data or manual data entry. It's like, yes, those jobs are going to get replaced, but it's not you that's getting replaced. It's the task. And now
Right.
you can spend more time doing higher level or other things that are much more valuable to an institution than data entry, for example.
Yes, yes. In working with other institutions and, you go to a lot of events, talk to a lot of different people, what are some of the most interesting use cases you've seen in higher ed outside of the academic space?
I've talked to a few folks, and what they had cobbled together a really interesting flow with their RFI form coming in, and then using Zapier to, was it make.com or Zapier, to essentially use OpenAI to personalize a message and then bring that message back through Zapier into Google, and then send an email through Google. So it was really like a Rube Goldberg machine, so to speak, of sending a personalized message to that student based on the information they submitted into an RFI form, and sending that back to that student. They just cobbled it together through that form, through the web form, which was really interesting. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe we should just put an AI automation block in Element, that when a form comes in, you can just write a prompt and then you can deliver any of those. And I mean, we did that, but it was interesting. So that's where I got the inspiration from with that workflow.
Yeah, I mean, and that's such a great use case because, previously having to put each step through a human, it slows the whole process down. So it might be, days before you would get this email back based on the form submission, other than just like a thank you for submitting the form, we'll be in contact with you, generated email. And then, the email that they get right away has all sorts of content in there about the specific things that they said that they
Right.
were interested in. I mean, it's really personalized as opposed to just putting their name in there and saying that that's personalized.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's we're way past the first name
Right.
personalization now.
So you've been in the AI space for a while. You've seen how quickly things are moving. Where do you think it's going? What do you think the next year or two? I used to ask people like 3 years, but that's, I mean, in the
It's way
AI
too
space, you
long,
just
right?
can't even guess, right? What do you think 2025 is gonna bring?
As we record this, all right, Sora, like the AI model from OpenAI. OpenAI has this 12 days of Christmas. I don't know if you've been
Oh
following
yeah,
this,
absolutely.
but it's amazing, right? Because last week they announced their new O1 model, which is the idea that these models can now reason through and problems, and they can, they can reason through for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, or sometimes even longer than that, and they can solve real hard coding problems. Today we saw Sora being released, and I don't want to put a timestamp on this, but I guess I'm doing that on the recording. So Sora is the video model. A lot of them have been released before, but this was the most anticipated one. It looks amazing. I mean, in terms of like, and you can get it as part of your ChatGPT Pro account right now, and you can get video 1080p video out of it. So what I see, over the next, I'm going to give you 2025. I'm not going to go 2026 because that's way too far.
Right.
2025 is the year of the agents, right? It's essentially when we're now taking this agentic kind of workflows and they're becoming part of our day-to-day work. And you're going to see solutions coming in. You're going to see kind of these workflows being replaced by agentic workflows, from things like content creation in your CRMs and your tools. We're seeing like Element, like that's our AI assistants, our agentic systems with agents of agents that are doing all this work and handoffs and all that stuff. So we're going to see that become how software is getting delivered, and it's going to be agents that are going to kind of be this next phase of AI innovation that's happening and baked into every product or every tool that we use. So that's how we're going to get value out of AI this in 2025. So that's one thing. But then you start thinking about 2025 becoming the year when we will move from experimentation to actually deployments of AI for real, systems. So you're going to see the early adopters all have some kind of component or some kind of workflows that they have adopted, but now we're going to see the majority start actually stepping into and start adopting these tools and making them part of their workflows. From a technology perspective, or like frontier models, you're seeing it already, but some folks are thinking, hey, this reasoning models are going to get better and better, so we're going to get the reasoning, but then we're going to start seeing like this, what are called world models, right? This notion that models need to not just be fed text and video and whatever, but they need to understand the world around us. So how do those world models fit into everyday use cases? Think Tesla self-driving car, right? The FSD systems in there. So that's going to become normal, and it's going to become available in a lot more cities and states in 2025. So the self-driving car, and you're going to see the humanoid robots become much more advanced, because now they have this world models that they can move around and they can reason about. And then of course we're that's not going to stop, right? We're going to see more and more of those. Actually, Sora is marketed as a world model, right? As a so so we're going to see a lot of that, and we're probably going to see some of the largest deployments of AI superclusters with XAI continuing to kind of innovate. We're going to see GPT-5 and all this. I don't know if we're going to get to AGI in 2025, but for sure, it's going to be a very, very interesting year for the application layer of AI coming to every day. So all of the applications that we see today, they're all going to be, that whole layer is going to kind of be infused and going to deliver on the AI promise, because the models are getting cheaper and faster, and you don't need, like, you have smaller models, infrastructure gets cheaper, so now you can inject AI into everything. And with the agentic systems, you're going to get that software delivered, and it's going to be great. 2025 is going to be great.
Well, 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out, if you'd have made those predictions for 2025, people would have said you were crazy.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
Right?
Now
But
you can
now it's
actually
like,
see it.
absolutely. And it's like, yeah, that is just next year. Who
Yeah.
knows what's going to happen in 2026. Fantastic. So one of the last questions I always ask people is, what specific AI use cases are the most useful and helpful for you specifically within your workflows and processes?
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of manage a lot of folks here at Element. Writing is very, very important for everything that I do. So I use just a few different. I use ChatGPT, but then I also use Claude quite a bit. So having the ability to kind of have I won't say a coach, but also a writing companion. So like this idea bouncing back and forth, testing ideas. So that workflow has been invaluable, to be honest, because as a CEO, I don't have someone to go in and kind of test my idea or ask him about it. And if I do, it's, like we'll have to set up a meeting and then 3 days later. So if I need to test something out and I need to walk something through, like I would do that with AI today. And it's been super, super valuable in having me think through problems and how good, it's amazing how good that it's become, right? Thinking through about it. So
Yeah.
that's one of the ones that one of the use cases that I use every single day.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable the amount of expertise it has and the advice that it can give you.
Yeah.
So artists, if people want to follow you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I post a lot on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn/artist, or just search for Ardis Kadiu on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out and talk to me about Element, you can email me at artist@element451.com. And happy to kind of have the conversation, or just connect with me at the next conference. I've been doing a lot of traveling, so I'll probably see you there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights. Really appreciate it.
It's been great, Brian. Thanks for having me.
That was such an incredible conversation. Ardis's perspective on the value that AI can bring to enrollment marketing is critical for higher ed institutions to start looking into right now. This technology can do a lot of things, so it's essential that we focus on what areas can have the greatest impact for our institutions, and there are few better places to start than with enrollment. His emphasis on viewing AI as a transformational technology rather than just another tool provides a valuable framework for institutions beginning their AI journey. The key takeaway is that successful AI implementation requires rethinking entire processes from an AI-first perspective rather than simply adding AI features to existing workflows. It's also easy to forget how early we are in this technology, so we need to be sure we're not only paying attention to what advances are happening now, but also staying focused on what's coming down the road. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating. Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Ardis Kadiu, Dave Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.